Hello there. I'm still at the hospital, but I'm in this lovely little park that's just in behind the hospital doing this video. And I hope I'm not doing too many of these. It just passes the time for me and it's kind of fun. So just scroll on by if they're not interesting. But what I thought I'd talk about today is running, because a lot of you guys have been super interested in how I got into running after I kicked the drink. And I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about that journey because it's been so rewarding for me, and it's so related to the finishing drinking, the starting running. They're kind of intertwined. Do you hear those birds? That's a butcher bird. They're beautiful. Or no, actually, maybe that's a magpie. They're from the same family, but some beautiful bird calls around here. So you guys know from that video I posted about stopping the drinking that I had kicked the drink and I had started to watch my diet, and I was walking every day, but I just wasn't seeing the weight come off as fast as I would like it to. And I knew I'm a numbers person, so I knew I really had to get the heart rate up and do something more intense than just walking if I wanted to see bigger movements each week with the weight loss. So I don't know, actually, if you watch this, Steph, you might remember, I ran once in my life before. It was back in my 20s when I lived with Stephanie. And I used to run around that old Sambro Road area. I really enjoyed it. And I remembered that, back in my early 20s, but I've never run since. And it's such a horrifying thing to think about doing, particularly when you're unfit and overweight like I was. And so I downloaded something called a Couch to 5K app. So if you go to the App Store and you Google C, the letter, or the number 2, the number 5, and then the letter K, C25K, Couch to 5K app, you'll find no end of them. And they're cheap, like 99 cents or $2.99. So I downloaded one of those, and what it does at the beginning is it just takes you through 9 weeks, or they're all a little different, but the one I did was 9 weeks. And it has you do different combinations of walking and running over the 9 weeks. And I think you have to get out 3 times a week for each of the 9 weeks. So the very first one might have had you run for 10 seconds. It's very, anybody can do it. And remember, when I was doing this, I was at the beginning of my weight loss journey. So I was quite heavy and super unfit, and I managed it. So please don't think that any of you watching couldn't manage it as well. And so you have to get out every other day, on average 3 times a week for 9 weeks in total. But the cool thing about it is if you can't finish successfully a session, and by the way, the sessions are half an hour long. I think, on average half an hour. But if you can't get through it, let's say you're up to week 4 and you're walking a minute, running a minute, walking a minute, etc., and you can see the programs and you know what's coming up the next week, you can reset it. So you just, at the end of the session, it says, how did you go? Were you successful? How did you feel? Stuffed? Great. And if you say that you weren't successful or you feel stuffed, it just repeats that session. So for my 9 weeks, I think it probably turned into 12. I got really stuck, I think, from memory around week 5 or week 6. It was having you run 10 minutes at a time without stopping, and I just couldn't do it. Or if I did do it, I was really, it was really hard. So just know that you can take, 4 months, 5 months to do it. But right at the end, the goal is to run without stopping for 35 minutes. And on average, that should get you to 5K, but it may not, depending on the speed you're running at. It really doesn't matter. So that's how I started running. And then about week 5 or week 6, I can't even remember, I had this epiphany. I had lots of epiphanies in the last year and a half, where if I timed the run for 4 or 5 p.m., so most people like to run in the morning, but I was learning the good time for me to run was the afternoon. It would be right when I used to want to have a drink. And I thought that's a really good way to replace, a good habit with a bad habit and get my thought processes. But what started happening was when I would get home from the run, I just would feel the same way I used to feel when I was drinking. The good bit of the drinking, after you have a drink and you're feeling really lightheaded and happy. I was getting those same endorphins, dopamine rushes that I used to get from drinking. And that's when the penny dropped. That was game changing for me. And remember, just because my story is about drinking and then running, your story might be about a food addiction, or just being, not getting enough exercise in the first place. It doesn't have to be the same as mine. It's just working out what out there in your life you can substitute that's healthy with something that's unhealthy. Because there's a lot of academics and studies out there that talk about you have to replace the unhealthy addiction with something healthy. If you just leave that space in your life with nothing to fill it up with, there's evidence-based studies that say that you'll go back to that unhealthy habit very quickly because you'll feel empty and bored and listless and all of those feelings that you feel when you're on edge because you're letting go of something that you're addicted to. So when that penny dropped about the running, that was just game changing for me. And remember, I think I said to Ash, it might have been week 9 or week 10 before I could even lift my head to look at people as I passed them. It was that bad. When I started, my head was down looking at my toes. I couldn't even get my head up. And I was wheezing when I finished running, and I got really interested in Garmin watches, these smart watches and heart rates. My heart rate was up 180, 190, which is, put me on an emergency room table. So if you're feeling any of those feelings, completely normal. So it took me about 12 weeks to get to 5K running nonstop. And gosh, I was so proud of myself when I finally did it. And, oh, look, I think you might be able to see this. There's a little magpie here. Can you see him? Hold on. He's interested in my food. I think he's quite tame. Let's see. We're not sure. No, this is a butcher bird, not a magpie. I shouldn't do this, but they're obviously pretty tame. They're gorgeous birds, and they make the most lovely song. As I mentioned, you can hear it. So, so I did the 5K, and then I was now I've got 2. There's 2 of them now, look. I don't know if you can get them both in the camera at the same time. There's 1 and there's 2. I'm going to get bombarded now. That was a bad mistake, wasn't it? So did the 5K, and then I was just addicted. So then I got really, you might be different, but I love stats. So, I had initially I was using a Fitbit, and then I moved to a Garmin Forerunner watch. And I was looking at, my personal records for best 1K, best 5K. And I stayed at 5K for quite some time. And then I think the first 10K I did was maybe, I'm going to get attacked because the birds are going to come into the camera soon. They're not leaving me alone now. The first 10K I might have done was an hour 20, hour 25. So it might have been 5 kilometers of running, 5 kilometers of walking. And maybe I'll just do this video is running on, so I might do a further video, but you might know if you've been following me on Facebook that about 3 weeks ago I managed to do a half marathon distance, which is 21.1K. Now don't think in a million years I ran the whole thing. I think I managed to run about 12 or 13K, and my kids will say, well, no, Mom, you didn't, because you had to go to the toilet in the middle, but that's another story. But other than the toilet in the middle, I ran 10 to 13K nonstop, which is brilliant for me. And then the final 8K I walked. So, but still, just such a huge accomplishment. And I feel like having hit all these milestones, I could really do the 42 or the marathon distance in a year's time. That's how quick it came on from not being able to walk up a hill and very overweight to kicking this operation in the ass and thinking about doing a marathon in a year. So I know when you're trying to get healthy, one of the things you say to yourself is, well, it's just going to take forever. It's going to take years and I'll get disillusioned. But break it down, right? I'm not suggesting in a million years most of you have a drinking problem, but for me, that was what I had to kick first. And then getting the exercise, just break it into little chunks, and then hopefully you'll get the motivation of the scales going down. So for me, on average, I was getting about a 0.5 kilo to 1 kilo a week, at its best once I started running, which is about 1 to 2 pounds a week. But it only sort of kept up at that level maybe for 10 weeks, because you just can't sustain that sort of weight loss, and it'll really slow down. And I know that can be demotivating too, particularly when you gain weight, when you lose weight, when it's going up and down or you're plateauing. So hope that was inspirational. Even if you don't think running's your thing long term, what have you got to lose? Just get out there, try the Couch to 5K app, see what you think, and love it, don't love it. If you don't love it, try cycling. Ash is nuts for cycling. That guy is just so super fit. It just makes me crazy. It might be swimming. It might be aerobics, whatever. But you need something to lift your heart rate. Just walking is probably not going to do the trick if you're trying to get significantly fit or lose weight. And I hope that was a little bit of encouragement to those of you that are trying to get fitter in your life. And I know everybody says this, but if I can do it, anybody can do it.